This is Frank Skinner. This is
Absolute Radio.
This is Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio with Emily Dean and Pierre Novelli. You can text the show on 81215, follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at Frank on the Radio. Or you know what, you can email the show via frank@absoluteradio.co.uk. Tried to make it sound a bit more human this week, a bit less like a read. What do you think? How do you think it went?
I think it had some more soul in it.
Oh, thank you. That's what I tried to find. Yeah. I thought I'd start formal and then have a sense of me melting as if a man who was trying to be something he wasn't and then was allowed himself to break down and to reveal himself. I think people at home will like me for my vulnerability. Okay.
You know you're saying this all out loud.
Oh, am I? What, again? Oh, no.
Frank.
After the court case and everything.
We've already had a lovely... I mean, we don't share praise, Pierre. I know. And yet you decided to join us in spite of that.
That's true.
But we have... I do occasionally allow us a small smidgen through for Frank's poetry work.
Oh,
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
well, I think that counts because it's such an obscurist activity.
Yes, it's about, it brings a balance to it.
Yes, exactly. It's not exactly Britain's Got Talent, is it?
No. Although, always an option
Yeah.
to promote the
Well, you
podcast.
could bring the buzzers out for the poetry.
Oh, no, I wouldn't
Can you
want it.
imagine
No,
it?
because it's about love.
That would be great. I
It's
wanted
not.
lonely as a... No,
It is not like Britain's Got Talent about spite.
So, Framing Witches has been in touch.
Okay.
Even I'll let that sit
There's
there.
not much work in that
No.
in that line of informing anymore, is there?
I mean, I don't know, is that an occupation or some sort
I
of
think
intent?
it probably was in
definitely
the
was, yeah.
17th century or 16th.
But
Yeah.
these days, kicking their buckled shoes are idle.
Here they are.
Oh, they
yeah.
like a buckle. I tell you what, in that coronation, there were a lot of
Yeah.
Framing Witches shoes in that
Oh,
corrie.
God, yeah. There was some a proper buckled shoes.
Oh, it's a Cromwell fest.
You should have heard my parish priest's homily this week. It was the day after the coronation. He said, I very much enjoyed the coronation. He said, in 1953, no Catholic was allowed in the church.
Really?
The coronation. He said at that time Catholics weren't allowed in Protestant churches. And then he listed the Duke of Norfolk, the Papal Nuncio, the head of the right, and he went through every military figures who weren't there officially as Catholics, but he knew they were Catholics, so he outed them. It reminds me when my dad claimed that Muhammad Ali was Catholic once in our house. But it was great. It was a real spot the Catholic thing. I loved it.
Oh.
Anyway, sorry, carry on.
And the golden coat. Oh, the golden coat. It wasn't really a coat, was it? More golden bathrobe.
It went on though, didn't it?
Oh, it went on.
Yeah.
Apparently, the attendees had to get there at 7:40.
Oh,
And it only started at 11.
oh,
So
it's like the Royal Variety performance. Everything to do with the Royals takes so long.
One thing I found a little bit tricky was the screen.
Oh no, because we talked about that, hadn't we? We talked about the anointing screen.
Yeah, we talked
In
about
the
the anointing
morning.
screen. I wasn't expecting that though, Frank.
Oh, it was very. It was very. Grandma can't get to the proper toilet.
I think they should have had, like in the Scarlet O'Hara, they had those louvered doors. They had those screens, where they got change behind and you'd see a corset flung over. I thought it'd be a bit more like that.
Yeah,
Did you like the screen?
You could see through the join a little, just hints of anointing going on, just teasing. You know how teasing a half-glimpsed anointing can be?
Yeah.
It really went there.
There was something of the Vegas magic show about it.
Oh, yes, it was, yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
Copperfield was there. He didn't get an invite, Copperfield.
No,
I don't know if
I don't know. What's he doing now, Copperfield?
I don't know.
Never hear about him
He's
anymore.
If you're listening, dude, what's that?
He's disappeared.
Oh, dear. And his partner is currently doing shows in Vegas and New York simultaneously. It was like cutting a woman in half. Oh, I had to come with a...
What about framing witches?
You don't... Oh, well, we'll get to framing witches in a minute. As I think the Witchfinder General once said.
Frank Skinner on
Absolute Radio.
May
Yes.
I return us?
Oh, yes, to framing witches.
Yeah, he's got a lot on.
Yeah.
Framing Witches says, even if poetry isn't your bag, I like the idea of it not being your bag.
I think that's true.
Or
The vast majority of the nation, the
you
world.
never felt comfortable properly investigating it. Notice, always with the investigations, Witchfinder General.
Yes.
I guarantee that this podcast will enable you to see the beauty within. Now that, I had to share that because that's quite a
No,
good
that's
one, isn't
very,
it?
very splendid.
Do you feel uncomfortable with
I don't,
with
I'm not
praise?
great with praise, but I sort
That's a
of
good
feel,
one.
like I say, it's such a minimalist activity, poetry.
That's what I feel.
Yes, exactly. It's like tapping a small child on the head, whereas you wouldn't do it with a fully grown woman.
Yes.
Not anymore! Anyway, so here's... Oh, what a week I've had. We'll continue this theme. I was in a cab on Monday night, and it was one of those moments I suddenly filled with dread when the cab driver said, I'm gonna try a Cockney accent. So, what you been up to tonight?
Yeah.
And I said, I thought, shall I lie or shall I just tell him? And I thought, no, I'm not going to lie. That's wrong. So I said, I've been to a poetry reading at the Swedenborg Centre. And he said, what's that? What's that like? And I said, well, it's, a mate of mine, has got his collected poems coming out. So he got up and read from it. He read the poem. So there was a pause, and he honestly said, yeah, I've had a bad night as well. What? Why did I suggest? And then...
That's perfect.
and then...
I actually love him.
That's really...
Well, you know what? I could only laugh at it later because I was slightly felt. No, I've got to say it wasn't a bad night, enjoy it, but
Yeah.
I had to leave it. He'd then gone on to why he's sick of being a cab driver, and then he
Yeah.
told me some terrible stories about things that had happened to him in his. But the assumption of that. That's why I don't mind a bit of praise for the poetry podcast. You're allowed some balance, I think.
Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio.
You were talking us through your driver. It was a cab that you got into, wasn't it?
Yes.
Who said...
No, he assumed that going to a poetry reading was a bad night, which I didn't. I wasn't afraid, but I just thought, oh, I can't be starting to just. It was like 10 to midnight. Do you know what I mean? I couldn't be doing it.
I had something this morning which I wanted to run past you guys. I had a driver this morning who said... I really liked him, actually. I should say I really warmed him. I liked his life.
Okay, well then I really like my one.
Don't feel guilty. We're all different. We're all God's children.
I did quite like him. He was classically London Kebby.
Mine said, which I liked, he said he had a pick-up after me and he said, he said, I'm going to Royal Windsor. I like that he used Royal Windsor.
Oh, nice.
Pick up from the Savoy. And then he said, somebody's got money.
I love it.
Do you like that?
He's right. Somebody has got
And then he
one.
said, which I enjoyed, he said, so what's happening with Camilla then? Sorry?
Ah,
He said, what does...
it's a big. How long was the journey to start that conversation?
Maybe he's a listener and he assumes that you must have met her
He
at
said,
some
what's
point.
happening with her? He said, she will be queen. Even if he goes, she'll be queen. I said, oh, no. That's not the deal.
I don't know what happens if he. I don't know if we should be talking about.
Well, it's about. I think we're allowed. It's about the monarchy rather than
I know.
anything to be. And so he said.
So it seems a bit harsh to be discussing his death the week after the coronation.
Well, anyway, she said. I said. He said, "Well, she doesn't get to keep the crown."
Keep it?
I said, "No." He said, "That's awful."
No.
I think that would be her primary concern.
You're right. I mean, you could say, is it sexist that she gets kicked out if he dies?
Yeah.
Was it?
Well, yeah. Well, think before you answer. That's my advice.
Well, you know what I'd say? Someone's got money.
Yeah. Do you ever have a conversation where somebody brings something up, and I mean, it must happen to both of you two, and you've got a really good thing to do. You know, I was once at a bonfire. Just a few of us round a bonfire.
Framing witches?
And this, no, not that night. And this guy I was with sprinkled something on the fire, and the whole fire sort of went green, and it was really quite whoa. We all went whoa. And sometimes in conversation, you just have something to drop in, and you think, oh, I'm loving this. So I went this week to the press night of Operation Mincemeat, which is a musical, which is at the Fortune in the West End, which I've spoken about before on this show. This is my third time at Operation Mincemeat, and I love it so much. It's just joyous. Nevertheless, so I went to the after show, which was at the banqueting house, which you may recall is where Charles I was executed. He had to sort of go out the window onto a platform, and then they did the rest. Funnily enough, when you go in there, they got that. Do you know that famous painting of Charles I when there's three of him? It's like side on from the left, side on from the right, and then in the middle.
Like he's been arrested.
Yeah, so you get like a three-headed Charles I to try and overcompensate for the one upstairs. So we went there. Oh, there's a great... I'll tell you something about that room where he was executed. There's Rubens paintings on the ceiling, which he commissioned. So when he's led through the room to his execution, he looks up and there's the paintings
Filthy creep
that he commissioned. Anyway, I was talking to a couple, and the woman said that it's about it's a true story from World War II. And she told me something which was a really interesting and unusual fact. But I just had a little treat that just fell into my lap. I'll tell you what it was after this.
Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio.
So so this woman was saying, I've got a sort of strange involvement with this musical. And I don't think this is a spoiler because it's a very well-known story, but a part of the plot, it's a World War II story, but don't let that put you off. I know that wouldn't put... when I watched it, I thought, I wonder if Pierre has seen... This
Of course he's seen it.
It's like a World War II intelligence story. And I thought, I thought it's so far up Pierre Strasser, he wouldn't need a visitor's parking permit.
Are there codes involved?
Oh, there's codes.
Oh, he loves codes.
No, man. Anyway, so this woman said, my great uncle was H.A.L. Fisher. And I said, hold on. And this was my moment. I said, H.A.L. Fisher wrote a 2-volume history of Europe. I've read it. She was happy. I was happy. It was just,
Her face when you said that.
Oh, well, my face when I said it.
Oh, thanks.
As soon as it's been years since I read it, but that name.
You gave her the chance to say the phrase, the very same.
Yeah.
Which is a great phrase to be able to say.
But also, I think if it's your relative, the idea that someone's read his 2-volume history of Europe is quite a nice feeling. We basked in each other's knowledge, our relation, everything.
Someone gets to put their hand up and say, but you don't mean The HR Fisher.
Yes. So anyway,
The whole thing's got a very J.R. Hartley energy.
So they had to use a corpse as part of the plot. I won't go into details,
dear.
but they needed to pretend that he was someone who threw money about a bit. So they asked the wife of H.A.L. Fisher, the historian, because he was killed in, I think, a tram accident shortly before, if she'd still got any of his underpants, which they imagine were of high quality, but they would be worn somewhat because they didn't want to put new ones on in case it made the Nazis suspicious. When I say Nazis, no disrespect to our German listeners. So she supplied some of his pants to put on the body. H.A.L. Fisher. Yeah.
Oh my God! Wow.
So it was that kind of night at the after show. I kept meeting people who were involved with the real story.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I met the grandson of Colonel Johnny Bevan. And
I bet he had some quality street trousers on.
You know what? He was actually wearing the trousers of his grandfather. He'd worn especially, yeah. Brilliant.
Wow.
So he was wearing Colonel Johnny Bevan's check trousers. And what about this? He said his granddad used to tell the story because it was a big elaborate hoax to try and fool the Nazis. You've got to go and see Operation Mincemeat.
I'm going.
Yeah.
I promise you will text the show and say you were right. It was brilliant. Anyway, so he said his granddad remembers Churchill after it happened. This thing. Churchill came into the sort of intelligence thing with the old overall. He used to wear like the overalls.
Do you know, that's my thing. Churchill in those overalls.
Yeah.
Because the confidence with which he wore them. A lot of people of his size and stature would have thought, no, not for me.
Well, they thought he'd come to bleed the radiators. Anyway, he came in and said, it's work, we fooled them. Which I think I said to my manager the last time they recommissioned this show. That's absolute.
In your
But
overalls.
what a moment, Churchill coming in and saying, I mean, come on. They had an ice sculpture of Churchill at the show.
Really? Gosh.
And I spoke with Mary the Australian, who spoke of the convo, if you might remember, a few weeks ago. And I said, how long did you stay? She said, I stayed until Churchill had almost gone, like, the ice thing. And I said, I didn't like the V sign because as the fingers, they became like grotesque antennae. I texted back. And she said, I thought that the fingers, as it melted, looked like people's teeth when they're carved down for veneers. And I said, maybe that's what the V stood for. And that's the kind of text exchange I have with my work colleagues.
Frank Skinner.
Absolute Radio.
So it was a great after show. Phil Wang was there.
Yes.
P.S. mate.
Yes. Did you manage to corner him and ask him about that ad campaign?
No, I didn't ask him. I hadn't got long enough for him to explain whether I would be photoshopped or actually present as an extra if I followed his ad campaign.
I'm actually so relieved I didn't go now because I would have found that moment excruciating.
No,
when
I would have been too embarrassed. You don't want to bring up people's failed work.
Wow.
Anyway, they had.
I'll get my coat then.
They had mincemeat pie at Operation Mincemeat. The
what
food
was the mincemeat
food was
pie
great.
like?
It was. I liked it. It was very World War II.
You like most food, though.
Yes, I do. And then they brought out chocolate cigars
Very nice.
in the church, with the big ones in like cigar cases.
Did you eat it or save it?
Well, obviously, I played around with it for a bit and did all the cigar celebrities. Well, actually not all of them, come to think of it, but all the ones that one could do, like me Churchill and me Groucho.
Yeah.
It's your Cigar Aficionado magazine cover stars.
Yeah, exactly. So it was brilliant. I had very much a week. Oh, by the way, I read that they on the banqueting houses thing, they tell you about the execution of Charles I, and apparently when he was actually killed, when the axe fell, the groan the crown made. People talked about it for years, that they'd never heard anything so deep and profoundly sad as the groan of the crowd.
Oh, wow.
When because a king was being executed. And then I did a couple of Thursdays ago, I did Soho Theatre, and I thought, this is what it
Sounds like.
this is what it sounds like.
Did ladies rush the stage and dip their hankies in your blood as well?
Well, there was plenty of my blood on the stage. I'll tell you what I did. I did this thing. I don't know if you've ever done this, Pierre.
Someone shout, "May God forgive you."
The night before, I'd done a gig, and I thought, you know what, I haven't put enough new material in this. I need to put, I've only just put a couple of little bits in. So the next night, I opened with about 10, 15 minutes of new material.
How was it?
None of which was. And the thing is that not only was I being tortured, but I knew I had a little bit of stuff that's been working, and then another job. And I did it. I carried on and I did it, and that didn't work either. Oh, when King Lear comes out carrying Cordelia. Oh! That's what I was like in the dressing. Honestly, I can't. Oh, man, the agony of it. And I turned on the crowd. It was a great night in many ways.
This is Frank Skinner. This is
Absolute Radio.
This is Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio with Emily Dean and Pierre Novelli. Text the show on 81215. Follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at Frank on the Radio. Email the show via frank@absoluteradio.co.uk.
Oh, Frank.
Yes.
I thought of you at the Coronation concert. I say whilst watching,
Oh, yeah.
because Miss Piggy appeared.
Oh, I know.
And Pierre, do you know this about Frank? Frank, do you want to tell
One
him?
of my worst things is people interviewing Miss Piggy as if she's a
real person.
real person.
And flirting a bit with her.
And her sort of like coming on to them. It's a bit of an 80s idea, this sort of nymphomaniac pig.
How dare you?
Yes.
That's life in me, yeah.
But they've stopped with it regardless.
They've gone-
It's all right when they do it. If Kermit had been doing it to Claire Baldwin, it would have been in all the papers. But she was coming on strong to Hugh Binky Beaumont. Is that what he's called?
Hugh Bonneville.
Hugh Bonneville, yeah.
Oh, really?
Hugh Binky Beaumont was the man who coined the phrase "the magic of theatre," I believe.
Yes.
But anyway, yes, I found that excruciating
Did you?
as ever. I
Q's
really...
got the Picard, but Q has got access all areas. Turn up with Paddington, you're in.
Well,
yes,
where
of
was
course.
Paddington? We were promised Paddington.
Yeah.
And we got there was like a 20-second hand-drawn cartoon thing of him.
What are you expecting?
Well, he was that-
Exeunt followed by a bear.
Look, in the
He was behind the screen, the anointing screen.
with the previous monarch, it was an actual tea party with Paddington.
Oh, we've got
Yes.
previous monarch now, haven't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, with the last
with
monarch.
the Ancien regime, we got a real
He's gone a bit, I'm mates with the ABFC.
No, but it's, we got... I'm sure we were promised Paddington. That was in the
Yeah.
listings.
Yeah, but instead we got Scherzinger.
Paddington got picked up by the Met on the way in.
Yeah.
In case of mistaken
Yeah.
identity.
What's under that hat? Yeah.
What was in that briefcase? Does he carry a briefcase?
Yeah.
Oh, does it?
Is
It
that
went a
satchel?
little kind of luggage thing.
Oh,
when they
yes.
picked him
I
up at
think
the
it's
station.
called a suitcase.
Is it a proper suitcase that he has?
Yeah. I
But
think
it's
so.
not a wheelie, if that's what you mean.
But it is visually, it's a bit briefcase.
Let
Imagine
me
seeing
get
that
this
bear.
right. Paddington was a no-show at the Coronation. Who does he think he is?
Nick Cave was there, Paddington.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I thought...
Oh, they were all there.
I thought it was surprisingly bad.
I liked it.
Yeah.
Well, Scherzinger, what did you think of her?
Well,
I loved
could
her.
take or leave them.
Oh, I thought she was great.
Yeah, it was so it was. I don't like the Disney thing of turning cartoons into real people.
Yeah.
And that felt like that. She looked like a Disney princess from a cartoon. And she sang,
Yeah.
But she wasn't one of my highlights.
What was your highlight?
Oh, I love Katy Perry. What I loved is the person in the billing says, yeah, we'll have Katy Perry and then we'll have Take That. You think, no. No, you close with Katy Perry, do you? No. God bless Take That, but come on. I know it's a British night, but
come on.
You got to close with Katy Perry, haven't you?
I'd have thought so.
But there was lots of it was really brilliant sort of people moments. That young woman who played the bark, this is quiet. I cried a couple of times.
I cried at that.
When you sit and you think, people go on about woke politics, and then you watch something like that and you think, actually, I'm really glad my kid is growing up in the modern age. Was that a serious moment on Absolute Radio? For goodness sake, let's get back to Piggy, who I despise.
Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio.
Frank, can we please talk about something? It's a sensitive issue. I feel like I've got a lot of insight. You were talking about the Coronation concert earlier, into what's being said in a way that I didn't used to by the royals because of the arrival of the lip reader, the celebrity lip reader.
Oh, yes, this is a new... I wasn't aware of this before the Coronation.
Yeah.
And then they said, our lip reader said that Charles was saying, this is taking a long time or something like that.
Why can't we do anything on time?
Yeah.
Something like that. Everything's always late.
He said, he wanted to get out the coach. And then at the concert, there were some things as well. Like there was Charlotte, as greatest insights ever, it's not really up there, but Charlotte said, "Oh, look, Papa." And pointed at her father on the stage.
Nice.
I think she said Papa was on stage.
Oh, nice.
We've all said it. We've all said it, dear.
There's something unsettling about this, because it's harder to imagine a more noble profession than lip reading.
Yes.
And then to hand over your skills to the tabloids for eavesdropping purposes.
Yes, yeah.
That does...
I have to be honest, they are wreaking havoc. In people's lives
that
now.
does feel like people who do a medical degree and then go into the removing organs from people against their will line of work.
There's a good sort of online comedy thing, Bad Lip Reading, which is a good illustration of how you can abuse lip reading to make it seem like people are saying what you like because of how few sort of shapes the mouth can make, and there could be different sounds. So
but
it's open to abuse.
The king is not an easy one to do, I wouldn't have thought, because the teeth are usually clamped in rage. Every stinking day.
They did catch him saying, "Where's Paddington?" Clenching his fist.
Do you think that... You see, I think the lip readers have joined that other group, body language experts.
Oh, God, yes.
How do you find
but
them?
that's it, you see, because body language experts are obviously charlatans.
Yes.
Whereas lip reading is a really valuable skill that's been
Tarnished.
cast before swine.
Yeah.
Oh,
They've gone to the dark side.
You know what's going to happen is you're going to get like a big royal event, and they'll all be doing, where footballers hold their hands over their mouths when they're talking to each other.
Yeah.
You can watch I'll watch a bit of Port Vale, Sheffield Wednesday, and people are holding their hands out, and you think, what, you're frightened that what you're saying will be...
Do you think we'll see the return of the coquettish fan?
Oh, I do hope so.
Maybe all those masks we've got sitting in our drawers at home, maybe they'll be doing that to stop the lip readers.
Well, after Coronation Gate, I noticed... what was it Charles said in the carriage?
Well, hold on, I'll just ask my lip read. What did
he say, Pierre?
You can never bloody do anything on time.
Is that what he said?
Something like that, yeah.
As a result, I noticed that Charles, it was very... Well, I say I noticed, the lip readers told me. that everything he said was quite anodyne. It was very complimentary. I mean, even the Muppets, even after the Miss Piggy
Yeah.
debark, he
Yeah.
said, very funny.
Yes.
Very funny indeed.
Did he really?
Yeah.
He didn't say
Nymphomaniac pig.
Scottish pork. We use Scottish pork in the Coronation sausage. No. Did he say, how lovely that he said that about something that clearly wasn't correct? I wish he'd been at the Soho Theatre.
Frank Skinner on
Absolute Radio.
Frank, John Hopkins,
Oh, yes.
he's been in touch and he shares your hatred of Miss Piggy.
Hatred probably is. I don't hate any living creature.
Congratulations.
Okay.
Sometimes you listen to radio that just speaks for you. The truth about Miss Piggy is finally revealed. And I probably went for hatred because that is a word that John is not frightened of using. I've always had an irrational hatred of the porcine floozy. I've checked, we're allowed to use that
I
word.
like the word of irrational. It's got rasher in it.
Would the nation react the same if Hugh Edwards, for example, tried to get off with Roland Rat on live TV? What is it? Why did he just... You know what? Can I just say something about Roland Rat? Yeah.
Check with
When
the
he said
legal
rat
department.
fans, it was so arrogant. Well, we'll be the judge of that.
No, but that was his shtick.
But
wasn't
was it? Did he have a shtick?
He had a lot of sort of rat ego.
Oh, was he sort of meant to be an arrogant character?
Yeah, that was it. He was full of himself, erroneously, and that was why we could love him, because he wasn't super talented.
Very few humble puppets.
I think you're
Exactly.
making him out to be some sort of Shakespearean tragic
Well, he
hero.
saved,
Like,
apparently
well, the
he
whole
saved TVAM, if I remember. That's what people always say.
tragic flaw of Roland
No, look,
Rat.
I love the Muppets, but for some strange reason, their weakest creation has been promoted to the top of the pyramid, and I don't know. I mean, Kermit never got a word in at the Coronation do, and he's, I think, a more tortured, interesting, complicated character.
It's him and Paddington in the back of a police van.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yes,
What are you in for?
Oh, that sounds like a gastropub, the Frog and Bear.
and we all know what Paddy's in for. Decent exposure. That coat and now else.
Well, what? I wouldn't say Kermit was over. I think he had an evening suit on that
Kermit
night.
makes an
didn't he?
effort. Paddington just turns up in a duffel coat
That
all the
moment
time.
when Kermit was on the bike, you know, that famous image of
Painful.
Kermit on the fantastic. Unbelievable.
Yeah, Paddington always in his coat. Not staying long, are you?
Oh, can I ask you a mystery question while you're on?
Sure.
There's a house in
New Orleans.
No, Camden. Camden is in North London. It's a very trendy area, in case you're not from the metropolis.
It's quite goth-tastic.
It is. There is a house that I pass on the bus, and outside it, above the front door, right now, picture this, there is a black metal rectangle, thick black metal rectangle, on a sort of a stalk connected to the wall.
Oh.
Yeah. And it's above the house. I would say it's about no more than, say, 14 inches square or rectangular, if that makes any sense. Actually, it might be a square. And it's above the door. And I said to my partner, Kath, what do you think is the purpose? Because it's
Is it
just
plain, the square?
It's just a frame. It's not a solid thing.
Oh, right.
So it's just like a square. I think it is square. No, come to like a square frame.
Like a sort of almost artist's perspective.
But it looks like
instrument.
Victorian or something.
And it's facing outwards.
Yeah, and I said to Kath, what do you think that is? She said it's one of those basketball things. Well, For what shape more has it been designed? And also, it looks like it's from the 19th century. What are you talking about? I said, no, that's what it is. And what? So if anyone has any idea what that could be, so it's like, you know, when you turn sometimes those old wire coat hangers into like a square by stretching it. It's like that, but much thicker and, more permanent looking.
Is it erected over the door frame?
Above the door, like where one might put a porch. 8, 12, 15.
Frank Skinner.
Frank Skinner.
Absolute Radio.
Oh, sorry, you breathed in. I realised you were about to speak.
No, I was just going to say, quick suggestion for the unidentified object that you and Kathy had seen above a Camden door.
Yeah.
Love that poem. Phil says, your door furniture, all right, sounds like an umbrella hanger dryer.
Above the
An
door?
umbrella hanger / dryer. I mean, I think that would be a huge temple to build to the umbrella right outside, a permanent structure for these things.
Also, if it's to dry it and it's raining and you're using an umbrella, it's outside.
But it's not just
So it
that.
wouldn't
But
dry.
you don't want a dripping umbrella over your door unless you're Joss William. It sounds like a prank. I don't know what it is, but that doesn't sound right. I'll tell you what it reminded me of a bit. It reminded me of a frame that was used by Mr. Bobbles, who was an act that I saw in Edinburgh, a man who blew lots of enormous... Actually, the day I saw him... as I say, I was talking about a terrible gig I had at Soho Theatre a couple of weeks ago. Mr. Bobbles was having one of those days when none of the bobbles quite worked, and he started to become furious. And he got 2 kids up, and he said to one of the kids, "Stand still." And I thought, all right, Mr. Bobbles. All right, mate. I know you're having a bad day, but do you think that's going to win? Yeah, get aggressive with the kids. That'll win the crowd over.
Do you remember that? That'll slightly remind me. Do you remember when I went to see Russell Grant?
Oh, yeah.
Doing a show in Edinburgh, and there was a whole incident, Pierre, because I'm afraid his feather boa got tangled up on his hat stand.
Yeah.
And he shouted, there was a tense moment where the
showbiz.
music had kicked
I
in.
feel that's how he will die.
And the stage manager was trying to liberate the feather boa, discreetly, but unable to do so. And Russell, he got exasperated and he just snapped. He said, "Leave it, will you?"
Yes, it was.
Russ.
Oh,
Frank,
Russ.
another
But,
suggestion.
he was under pressure.
I love RG. Arthur Jones.
Arthur
rectangle-
Jones. Wasn't he in Dad's army?
Very
Jones.
probably.
Was Corporal Jones Arthur? I know Arthur was Captain Mannering. Not
Yeah.
Captain Mannering, Wilson.
Okay.
Uncle Arthur.
Arthur Jones.
Yes.
Rectangle above Camden House. Empty pub sign.
Well, that would be right, but it has it's in sort of canopy angle.
It's facing, not side on.
Yes,
Yeah.
it would be above you if you went out and you looked up. You would have a square shadow.
basketball.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't think it's basketball.
I'm with Kath. Izzy says much more confidently, the square above the door is where a gas lamp would have been.
But why is there a frame of some 14 inches square for a gas lamp?
Big old gas lamp, I suppose.
Well, that don't make no sense.
Okay.
Well, look, I don't know, but none of these things have made me think, oh, yes, of course.
Well, I can only apologise.
No, don't. I'm glad people... You know what I mean? I love a joiner in there.
Frank Skinner on
Absolute Radio.
You know, I said this week I did a poetry reading on Monday. I went to one, and then I went to on Tuesday. Everything changed this week's a bank holiday. And then I did Operation Mincemeat. It was brilliant. And then on Thursday, I went to the National Theatre to see a thing called The Motive and the Cue.
Oh.
Yeah, which is a play about Richard Burton,
Oh, is this the Jack Thorne?
It is, yeah. Richard Burton, you know, the old Richard Burton.
Yes.
He, I talked about one of his films recently on the show. Do you remember that? Is it the Medusa touch or something? The bloke who says to that woman, "Why don't you jump out of the window?" And she jumps out the window. That's like... anyway, Richard Burton. Richard Burton played Hamlet, and he was directed by Sir John Gielgud. And it's about that. And it's about the tension between the sort of... the previous generation where this bloke, Gielgud, was the great... And now this new hot star. It's apt arm. If you like...
Well, you don't have to sell this to me.
No, theatre or Shakespeare or any... it's an absolute... I wallowed in it.
Did you?
It was... And Mark Gatiss as John Gielgud. I mean, I'm just giving you a hot tip. It's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. And it's Johnny...
Go on.
Flynn...
Oh,
as Richard. I know that's what every woman you mention him to. There's a bit in it where he says to his wife Elizabeth Taylor. He says something about her getting parts because she's too good looking to be casting good parts, and she said something like. Guess who's talking or something like that.
Yeah.
And it is a problem, I think. Well, we all know what a problem it is in life, being really good looking. People it's hard to feel sorry for. Number 58, the beautiful. No, it's brilliant though. It's really man, I loved it. And I was going to
brother-in-law. These successes keep coming.
Well, I was going to go back and see Mark Gatiss. No, we have long conversations about Doctor Who together.
I bet he enjoys those.
And then I was just going to go back, and I saw Brian Cox and Derek Jacobi.
One?
Brian Cox.
Scientist or Succession?
Succession, Brian Cox. And Derek Jacobi, both heading back, and I thought, I can't compete. If they're going to talk about acting, what am I going to be saying? Yes, I remember when I was in Cooking with Elvis at the Whitehall. No, so I left.
I held a turtle over my part.
I bottled it. I didn't go.
Did you? What did you remember when you held the turtle?
It was a tortoise.
I was trying to give you a compliment.
Obvious to get one to cover my part, I had to travel to the Galapagos Islands.
Oh, God.
No, I did, yeah. I always remember as well, when I held that, I was naked and I was covering myself with this tortoise. And I'd say tortoise, but I'm going with you. I could feel the twin jets of the cold air coming from its nostrils.
Oh, I get that from my dog sometimes. I quite like it.
I know, but dogs are warm-blooded, aren't they? But this was cold because of the cold-blooded reptilian thing in my hands and the tortoise. Oh, my goodness. You know, I reached for the button then because I thought we need to get out of here after that. And there's more time to go.
Pawing at the parachute ripcord.
But anyway, the motive and the cue, it was really...
right.
It was splendid.
That's an intimidating backstage, though. I wouldn't have...
No.
Speak for yourself.
But I tell you, because a woman's playing Elizabeth Taylor in it. She's called Tuppence.
Oh, Tuppence Middleton.
Yes, and she... do you remember I went to see Julie Andrews at the O2? No, I'm not, but I would have been a good one.
Yeah.
I went to see...
Simeon's Gift.
I went to see... Oh, God, don't remind me. And
she did a show called Simeon's Gift.
And there was a sound of a rattling electric sound. And I thought someone is driving a milk float into the hospitality box. And it was... Elizabeth Taylor in an electric wheelchair, and the hum was the electric wheelchair, and the rattling was literally her jewellery.
Oh, wow.
And I've never been impressed by jewellery, but Elizabeth Taylor's jewellery seemed to have the very fire of heaven in it. It would look stunningly beautiful.
Really?
Gosh.
And we went into darkness, and... I was just looking at the shadow of Elizabeth Taylor, and then Julie Andrews on the other side. It was, and just before the interval came, I saw her take out lipstick in the dark and apply it completely in the dark, no mirror. And when the light came on, it was immaculately done.
Gosh.
What a woman! And that man was Robert Dougal. Now, I had a friend who said if ever an anecdote didn't go as well as he hoped, he always used to put that on the end of it.
Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio.
This is Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio with Emily Dean and Pierre Novelli. You can text the show on 81215. Follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at Frank on the Radio. Email the show via frank@absoluteradio.co.uk.
So
Emily
doing
Dean.
my shop assistant's impression.
Emily Dean. So,
Regarding the metal frame
oh yes,
jutting forth upwards, as it were, from the house in Camden, I think this is a winner, this one. From 632. Could it be an old police house and the old blue lantern was lowered into it? There's massive police lanterns.
it would have to
Those
be
are
a
big,
big
though.
were they really giant size? I suppose it could have been.
Yeah.
I feel like, if you don't mind me saying, good luck, everyone. I feel you're rejecting every suggestion.
Well-
I mean, 461, Camden door furniture. I like
Yeah.
that it's being called furniture now. I'm with Kathy. I'm with Kathy, says Maz.
Okay.
So Maz thinks Kathy's right. It is some sort of square basketball
Is it?
arrangement.
Is it, speaking of door furniture, a scotchen?
Oh, yeah.
Do you know that?
Martina Scutcheon.
No, but isn't an escutcheon one of those panels that you get next to a door handle to keep the door clean? Do you know what I mean? Do you know what I'm thinking of?
Oh, I think so.
Yeah, I think that's an
Is that what an
escutcheon.
escutcheon is? It's not a
Yeah.
sort of indent in the wall or something.
No, I think there's a little panel so that your clammy fingers don't eventually put a dirty mark on
Your
the door.
clammy fingers.
Yeah, your clammy fingers. Again, a great title for a poem.
Ruth Jordan, could it be that someone famous lives in the Camden house? And the square frame is so they can hang their own version of the anointing screen.
Oh,
When they leave home.
She's
avoid the
brought
paparazzi.
all the varying threads of the show together. What a woman! Now, so what else?
Well,
Oh dear. Well, we've also had a request. Can I request a song by Slade, please? As you know, they are a black country band.
They are. Yes.
I'll leave that with
What
you,
song
Frank.
do you want? I'll give you a quick one.
It's Claire Hanford. So maybe in lieu of playing it, Frank could give us a verse.
Okay. All right, everybody, let your head down. I better stop there.
Well, I'm at some like Billy Ray Cyrus part.
yeah.
But it would have become get down and get with it.
Get with it. You don't hear that phrase enough these days.
Well, someone sent in a thing about phrases that you don't hear anymore, wasn't it? Your wish is my command.
Someone did.
I hear it quite a lot at the S&M parties I go to.
Disgusting. 849. Hi, Frank, Emily, and Pierre. Whatever happened to the phrase, your wish is my command? It was always that as well, that rhythm. Your wish is my command.
Yeah.
I feel like I heard this a lot as a child, whether said sarcastically or not. But I haven't heard it for years now. That's actually from Daniel in Dorset.
I thought that was going to be from King Charles III. I heard it a lot when I was a child.
Was it a genie thing originally?
Yeah.
I look to you.
Yeah.
Was it?
Yeah,
Your wish is my command. So it was like an Aladdin job.
Yeah, did a wonderful thing there.
So you'd-
He placed both hands across his elbows.
He
with the
did.
genie
You did.
pose.
You'd be a great genie.
Do you think?
Oh,
my God.
Man, you were born to play the genie in Aladdin.
Oh my God, you're the genie.
Wouldn't I have to be sort of fully waxed and painted blue?
Yes.
Very well.
course.
You've sold me on it.
There you go.
He's Frank. He even says very well.
Yeah, I mean, it's perfect. And when you want something to happen, you'd go. Yeah, exactly.
Genie, come, Genie.
Really, I would if it comes up. Is it still in the West End, Aladdin?
I thought you meant the Genie. I don't know where he lives these days.
No, but I think
The
he's out the
I
bottle.
tell you what, also, but you also know, everything. So Genie answers all your questions, but
Yeah.
I think you're quite love and boundaries as a Genie, because I think you'd say no. You have 3 wishes only.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I would it would be like footballers now, they have to have a financial advisor. There's a sort of Genie, but there's also an accountant and a therapist.
I feel
you don't want to wish for that.
I think Pierre would be a bit more judgy on the wishing.
Yeah.
That would be. They'd be really self-conscious about what they would. Oh, I wished for the Encyclopedia Britannica, please.
Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio.
Boys, there's something that needs to be discussed this morning. Without further ado, it's a big night tonight,
Yes.
as you know, in Liverpool.
Yes.
Eurovision.
What, Everton, Man City?
Yeah.
No, it's Eurovision, yes.
It's Eurovision.
I have to say, we're a Eurovision family in our house.
What does that mean?
We do the bits of paper when you write down your top 3 secretly. So at the end, you can go, all right. Yeah. So, yeah, we love it.
Oh, wow.
Oh, I do as well.
This is all alien to me.
Yeah,
Is it?
I can imagine you not being able to relax into it.
No.
You've got to leave your irony at the door with
Yeah.
Eurovision.
Leave it hanging on my metal frame above the
Yeah,
door.
exactly, whatever that is.
Yeah.
You see, already Judge Genie, which is the character we created
Judge Genie.
for Pierre. I can imagine Judge Genie.
Judge Genie.
Judge Genie, I wish to attend the Eurovision.
Oh, that's what I'd do.
No,
I'd
do you?
I'd fold my arms like that and I'd go,
Don't go to the Eurovision. There's a talk by the Astronomer Royal tonight. No, but I really want to go now. Don't go to it.
It's such a pleasure to hear sort of kind of mad Afrikaans farm accent associated with highfalutin ideals.
Exactly.
The
It's a rare
astronomy.
combo with the Astronomer Royal.
Oh, man.
Anyway, the Eurovision Song Contest.
It sounds like you're going to give a history of it.
Well, can I be honest? I feel frankly intimidated by Judge Genie here.
I know. It's like, oh, God, I've said I enjoy it. He's looking at me differently.
He's judged us both. That's what he does. People are going crazy wild. Not my phrase. The phrase of, do you remember who first said that phrase?
No,
You may
I
not.
don't.
It was Daniel
Was it
Amokachi.
Lord Alfred Douglas?
No, it was Daniel Amokachi, the former Everton striker.
Oh, he went crazy wild.
He said all the fans are going crazy wild.
I
as
like
if it was the thing.
Hyphenated?
No, he doesn't bother with
Oh,
hyphens.
okay.
But I've already seen some of the runners and riders. I love France already.
Do you?
Have you heard it?
No.
Évidemment, it's called.
Évidemment. So it's in French, I'm guessing.
Obviously.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it just is, she just says repeatedly, évidemment.
What does that mean?
Evidently, obviously.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And Frank, I think she might like that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
I quite like, there's one called Cha Cha Cha.
Of course there is.
And it's about, I don't know where he's from, but he wears
He's Finnish, I think.
He wears a green bolero, is what they call it. Quite a padded thing. And I worked with Jonathan Ross on a show, and he said, I've got a present for you, for Bars. That's my child, in case you're new to the show. And he gave me 2 enormous Hulk hands.
Oh, yes.
And the green bolero would have been the perfect accessory to the. It's even got like the big shoulders and biceps in it.
Oh, of course.
It's a bit Hulk gets invited to the Met Ball.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's a bit Hulk just after a really good deep tissue massage has brought the green to the surface.
Frank, it's also got the flavour of, excuse me, Hulk, may I take your wrap for you before you enter? It's the sort of wrap.
Yes,
The
it
ermine
is,
wrap.
but no one would say that to the Hulk.
No.
Can I take your rep? It's my shoulder. But there's something about that song which I'll tell you about in a secondum.
Frank Skinner.
Absolute Radio.
Frank has been talking I mean, the man's obsessed about. I believe his name is Karia or something. Any Finns listening?
That's his first name. His surname is Opportunity.
Bravo. What's the Finnish for bravo? 8, 12, 15.
I think it's Beaktik. Anyway, don't quote me on that.
You really like him, the look of him.
Well, I tell you what it is. Do you remember when you used to talk about Franz Ferdinand's Take Me Out?
Song 1 and 2.
Song 1 and 2, yeah. So it's like a song that someone... You know when it used to be tales of people that bought a second-hand car only to find that it was the halves of two wrecked cars that have been welded together in the middle. And they get songs like that, where you get a song and then it just changes and becomes another song. Yeah. One could argue that in Bohemian Rhapsody... That was an example of such a thing.
So, but then we always felt you were either a so if you're lonely or a
yeah, I was very much anyway.
Yeah,
that cha 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 by Career Opportunities. It starts off. I love the first half, and I thought this is going to be my and it's suddenly become a song I didn't like as much.
Do you know what? I've got a confession. I'm not saying this for the purposes of the radio show. This is honestly true. I heard the opening, and it sounded like 12 old men playing kazoos,
my
shouting.
favourite.
And I thought, oh my God, this is so frank. And then I thought, this is getting a bit better in the second half.
Can I tell you a story? I was on eBay looking at books.
I was going to say clothes.
And they had G.K. Chesterton selected works, and someone had written in the comments thing, very old-fashioned and boring, and I thought, I'm having that, and I bought it. I bought it on that recommendation. I thought that's exactly what I'm looking for.
What about you have that on one of your, use that for one of your posters, Frank?
Yeah, an inverse review sort of system.
But I thought if anyone thinks that about it, I'll almost certainly love it. Yeah. And it's great. It's you know. It's
well, I've got to be honest. As soon as I heard the voices, and it sounded like old men.
Oh, you've heard the voices again. I've told you never mention that on air.
70s, Joe. You can. It sounded like people with strep throat, and I thought he'll like this.
Oh, you know, I love the start, and then I think, Korea. Oh, well.
People are saying it's a bit like Rammstein, is it?
Oh, he's got a bit. No, that first bit is like Rammstein.
Yeah.
We all live in America. Yes, exactly.
Yeah. One of the few heavy metal songs to mention Wonder Bras.
Yes, indeed.
Career.
Perhaps the only one.
Career Opportunity, as it shall now be called, I'm afraid. What I liked is when they approached him for a comment, did you see what he said, Frank? He said, this has been everything. It's hard to put this situation into words, and that's why I won't say anything.
Yeah.
That's very Finnish.
But then what I liked, which is this very Finnish, because he said, I've received lots of lovely messages, but I'm booked up, so I can't be contacted at the moment. Kisses and hugs to you all.
Wow.
I'm booked up.
Yeah.
You don't really talk to fans like that.
I have had finishes like that in relationships.
This is Frank Skinner. This is
Absolute Radio.
We're on Eurovision. The Israel entry, did you see that one? They've got a song called Unicorn.
Okay.
I think it's going to do well. Do you know why? The young people, they love a unicorn.
They do.
Give them a unicorn.
Do you remember The Bachelors? The Bachelors were an Irish trio.
I remember The Bachelors, dear.
No, this was a group, though. And it was Conan Deck McCluskey and then another Irish guy. It wasn't one of the brothers. I remember the day John Lennon died, the whole of television that night was Beatles. And I remember my dad saying, I don't know what the fuss is about. They weren't a patch on The Bachelors. Anyway, they did a song about the unicorn, probably in the 60s.
Oh, they've got fashionable. Yeah, but the unicorn's been reinvented as a whole bubble tea.
But this was a whole origin story. And the idea was that Noah omitted to invite the unicorn.
Oh, right.
So you get humpty-back camels, chimpanzees, and all that kind of... He lists all the thing, and he goes, but you ain't gonna see no unicorn. That was it was about. Wrong, as it turns out. They're everywhere now.
You can't get... I mean... What is it with the unicorns? The unicorn lilos as well.
Why aren't people satisfied with the narwhal? If they need a single-horned creature, don't invent one. Go for the narwhal.
And the pastel sprinkles on the unicorn, please.
Yeah.
Now listen. What about, Frank, I did think of you. I thought of you a couple of times. I thought of you the first time when I heard Career Opportunity in his Hulk shoulder outfit. The second time was when I came across the Austrian song.
Oh, yes.
Do you want to... I think we need to hand over to you because there is a poetry theme.
I can read you a bit of a lyric from it. There's a ghost in my body and he is a lyricist. It is Edgar Allen Poe. I think he can't resist.
Strange love catalogue.
And it's about being possessed by Edgar Allen Poe, the American writer.
I like the way Frank went writer. He's not going to give him poet.
Well,
He's not going to give him poet.
He was a poet, but no, he was a poet. He did Once Upon a Midnight Dreary As I Pondered.
He did
Weak
that
and
one.
Weary.
Yeah.
He did the Nice Raven one.
Yeah, that's the the Raven one.
Yeah.
He was no stranger to a terrible rhyme.
Sponsored by Lenore as well.
Yeah.
The Raven one.
Oh, I love a literary joke.
But in that one, he says, this is one of the rhymes from the Raven.
Are you suggesting Edgar Allen Poe's doing a read for Lenore
I hope so.
when he wrote The Raven?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got a collab deal with Lenore.
Can I give you one of his rhymes
Sorry,
from the
fine.
Raven? Surely that is something at my window lattice. Let me see then what thereat is. Now, I think that could be in Eurovision,
Yeah.
couldn't it?
Yeah.
Is it a bit She's Broke But It's Oak from Lady and the Tramp?
Exactly. But it's a great... I like the idea of writing a song about being possessed to write a song, if you know what I mean.
I thought it was interesting that the Austrian singers, it's Thea and Salena, are saying it's a sort of satire of how, you know, it's hard to be taken seriously as a female lyricist and stuff. And that makes sense, but I can't imagine two Austrian songwriters going, well, who do we know who is taken seriously as a modern lyricist?
Yeah.
Well, it's probably someone like Edgar Allan Poe.
Yeah, exactly.
What?
Yeah. How can we be taken seriously? Well, what if we were possessed by a dead writer from long time? Yes, then we would be of absolute authenticity. Oh, man. Bad ideas number 11. Let's be possessed by Edgar Allan Poe.
Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio.
Regarding the mystery metal frame above the door.
Yes.
A text in from 923. My gran used to put a box of hemlock over her front door to ward off evil spirits.
Wow, that's a big box of hemlock, but I like the idea of that. Of course, speaking of Edgar Allan Poe, it could be where the Raven
Lands.
sits.
Yeah.
Isn't there a... Who is it? Pallas. There's a bust over the door.
Pallid bust of Pallas.
That the Raven... So we had a bit of a Edgar Allan Poe loving in the
I
break.
enjoyed that. Well, I felt, you know what? We had the poetry czar here.
Yeah.
Ah,
I felt a treat. But also, think about the Raven. Not great company, though.
no.
Mix it up a bit, love.
No,
It
it's
just
a bit-
says nevermore.
A bit monothematic, the Raven.
Bit monothematic, dear.
We should mention May Muller, who is our representative
Yes.
tonight. And she's got a song. I'm going to quote from it. She's just been dumped by her boyfriend in the song.
Shame.
Wanted to trash your Benz, B-N-Z. Tell all your friends how cruel you were to me.
But then I
It's
wrote
all
a
right.
song.
It's all right when they say it. Yeah. Oh, I like the idea of turning something negative and awful into art like that. A bit like my discussion of my run at the Soho Theatre.
from Strange Comparison.
When
And we should say also, she is theatrical royalty. People are forgetting this, or perhaps they don't care. She's the granddaughter of the actor Dame Billy Whitelaw, the late Billy Whitelaw. It wasn't trending on TikTok, that piece of information, but I thought it might be interesting for some of our older readers.
Well, it is.
Thank you, good
impressive.
day.
Not Willie Whitelaw, by the way, in case anyone.
I was going to say,
They won't know who that is on TikTok either.
Well, look, as you know, I'm wearing today my sweatshirt with absolutely mullered on it because Absolute are absolutely backing her in the thing. She used to go, did you know? This is a bit of local stuff, bear with us. But I used to live in a place called Belsize Park where there's a sort of a college that I never worked out, but young men... Look, the boys would stand outside in cravats and trilbies smoking. And I realised, of course, it was a fine arts college. And she went there.
I went there briefly as well.
Did you really?
Yeah.
really?
How did you smoke Galois?
Orlando Bloom went there.
Did he really?
All sorts in
In
and
the
out.
days when he wore trousers.
Yeah.
Poor Katy Perry.
So I'm back in
She
France.
thought it was a seagull.
Oh my.
Anyway, you're
I'm
back in France.
backing évidemment.
Okay.
Frank Skinner, you are.
I'm gonna go. I'm gonna back May, obviously. You know what I mean?
Oh, we're all backing May, but we've got to have another
I
country.
would go to the cannon's mouth for my sovereign.
Yeah.
But apart from May, I'm gonna go for Cha 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 and fade it halfway through.
Okay.
Not the Hulk.
Yeah.
Not the. He hasn't got that.
Can I just say one thing? I must have told you about this, but I watched a documentary about a man who claimed that he really was possessed by Handel. You know Handel?
All right.
And he said, when I first met Handel, he said, I've had several lives. When I first met Handel, I was the society beauty, and then it was something like Countess Sophia di Vicenza. And the guy said, oh, okay, no, we'll take you seriously. And he said, where did you meet him? He said, what? She said, well, I was living in Atlantis at the time.
Oh, you've really fumbled that ball. You had a few fans left out there, and then you said Atlantis.
But that reminds me of a Radio 4 thing I heard about the Loch Ness Monster, and someone put a really reasoned view about how it could be a colony of these reptiles that live. That's why it's gone all these years. It's a family and blah, blah, blah. And then another bloke says, I think there was one originally, but I think the one people see now is a ghost. Make me a Loch Ness Monster a ghost. Is it not far-fetched enough for you? Anyway.
You're gilding the lily here.
Oh, man. Thank you for listening to us this morning. Come on, May.
Yeah.
You can do it. And if the good Lord spares us and the creeks don't rise, we'll be back again this time next week. Now get out.
This is Frank Skinner. This is
Absolute Radio.